Hi, it's Karen from the Reading Corner. Today we're going to go over some beginning sound activities. The reason that we teach beginning sounds is it is a pre-reading skill. So just like all the other activities we do, phonemic awareness, sounding out words, making words, all of these pieces are coming together. So when your child is developmentally ready to read, they've got all the skills they need. So we're not focusing so much on really like honing in on isolated things like sight words or just phonics or just phonemic awareness. We're really exposing them to all of it. The way we do this activity is basically I will leave it just like this, where I will cut them all up and I'll say, can you find an object, or I spy an object that starts with the t, t, t sound. And I'll go over those movements in a second. And basically they're going to find the letter T and they're going to find the word that begins with that letter T. So not only are we doing letter recognition, but we're doing sound recognition as well. This is, again, an easy activity to do. A lot of times I used to do this with my kids in the car. Again, like I was a little crazy back then. Like I felt like we had to be teaching like all the time. So I had like little things we did all the time. But I felt like when I was in the car, we played like an I Spy around when we were driving. So if we're at a stoplight, I'm like, oh, I spy a vehicle that starts with the t, t, t sound, and they would say truck, or I spy a vehicle that starts with the b, b, b sound, and they would tell me it. There was one time when my son was about 4, and he was so used to doing these activities that he started quizzing me on them, and he would say like, Mommy, hair, brush, take away the hair and what's the word that's left, and I would say brush. And he thought, and finally it was really cute because he was doing it for so many times, and he's like, Mommy, you're so good at these. But it's really neat when they can start teaching it back to you. So let your kids kind of model with you and like have them look around and see if they can find objects and then tell you just the beginning sound of it. So basically that's a simple way of doing it. I do like to do it, I will be honest, once I made this activity, I had some of my teachers that said that it was hard because once they had the activity or the letter on top of the object, they couldn't see the object anymore. So what I recommend is actually cutting it all up and putting the objects on one side and the letters on another side so that they can just match them really easy. This is a great activity for if you're in the classroom and you're doing literacy centers. This is a great pocket chart activity because they can match them on that pocket chart, which again is developing more of your gross motor. Anything you can do on the walls, whether it's the literacy stories on the walls, painting on an easel, all those things develop your gross motor, which eventually develop your fine motor, which is how those fine motor is what helps us when we're learning to write. This is why I do these videos, because if you just looked at it this way, you're like, oh, we're going to cut out the letters and we're going to put them on the objects. But like I said, you can cut them up, you can play memory, you can play a matching game. There's so many different ways of doing the activities, which is why I kind of take the time to explain them to you. The other thing that I love to do with this is do concept sorts. So just like we talked about pre-teaching those vocabulary words, once you've done a couple of these, you can either just pick these out of the curriculum every week, or if you downloaded them on the website, there's about 10 of these in one little bundle. So what I like to do is I like to cut a bunch of the objects out and I like to sort them. I do what's called a closed sort at first, which means I'm going to have all the activities and I'm going to think of 2 categories. So I'm going to say, let's find things that you can find outside and let's find things that you can find inside. I might do that for months because I really want to teach them how we sort like attributes and objects. Eventually though, just like I was talking about with my son modeling and teaching me, the really neat thing is your child starts doing what's called an open sort, where you leave all the objects and you say, can you find objects that would go together? So this is a great thing with all the activities. I always say just go ahead and put it back into the sleeve because you're gonna find different ways of doing the activities and just keep it natural. Like you don't have to just do what's on the activity. If you find a different way of doing this, which I find all the time, number one, I'll find my teachers or my educators that use this that will just reply to me and say, hey, this is a different way of doing it. But most importantly is the kids. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a classroom where a child will think of a different way of doing the activity, which is just so fun because they're not only learning, they're using their critical thinking skills. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you watch the instructional video where I'm going to actually do the activities for your child.